Good morning, everybody. How's things? Happy Sunday, happy Easter, everybody. We're doing good on audio today. I know that's always a thing with this stream. Actually got out here early and tested some things, so I'm seeing pretty good on my side, but you guys tell me. What's on the plan for today? It's Easter. A lot of folks go to church. A lot of folks go and have family get-togethers, family dinner. I'm seeing it all good from Boothie. That's great. What's on your guys' plans? Morning, Captain Kern Makes. Good to be here. I'm glad you got your Ender 3 working. For us today, we're going to stream only a couple of hours. I'm hoping probably somewhere around 2 hours. And then depending on how things go, we may cut it right at 2 hours to free you back to your families. Printers and yard work, I love it. Yeah, we're going to get a little bit going on the RatRig build to keep that process moving along. And then I plan to spend time with my family as well. We just did, probably for the last 40 minutes or so, my wife likes to do Easter egg hunt and like a riddle kind of scenario with the kids. And so we do that every Easter. We just finished that up. And then I rolled out here into the garage to come and stream and get started on the RatRig build. We haven't touched anything in a week. And so it's nice to get back in the shop doing the things. Just spent the last 5-6 days in San Antonio. Got home yesterday afternoon and pretty much crashed. I was kind of burned out from the week. So did a little bit of research this morning, got up early, prepped a little bit for the stream. And so we'll get started with some of the accessory stuff on the build. That's going to be things like some PTFE tubes, some spool holders, a couple brackets, things like that. There are 40-something steps in it, so it's enough to be useful today. But we're not going to get into firmware or anything like that today. That'll be most likely the next stream. So we have coming up, I've got the entire week off. So starting tomorrow, kids are on spring break. So I took the week off as well. For me, that means cleaning up around this place a little bit, and then maybe a little bit on the build, and just generally making the stream nicer to consume and to show things off. All right, so getting started, we've got 2 folks here. That's awesome. I realize it's going to be a little more difficult having Easter holiday today. People are out doing their things and stuff. But for me, I need to be consistent, and this holds me accountable to that. So we'll keep this pretty short. So even if you're looking in the background, thank you for lurking and hanging out for the amount of time that you can. We'll get through it, and then we'll say hi to all the folks in chat. So I see Losing just showed up. Thanks for being here. A little bit of a short stream today if you didn't catch that part of it. But we'll get through as much as we can in a little bit of time here. Plan is for about 2 hours. So roughly 2 hours from now, we'll go ahead and call the stream. Sweet. So where we left off last week was with our build here. So on this one, we left off putting on the tool heads as part of step 10. And then now for this one, we have 42 steps here in one section for the accessories, or what RatRig is calling accessories. We got Shrimp Father and 3D Medic Vents. Thank you guys for being here. So we've printed all of these parts already. Good morning, Martine. And I went ahead this morning and put a bunch of these heat sets in. I know that is oddly satisfying for some folks, but it's kind of boring to do it on stream. And you guys have seen it plenty of times before, I'm sure, if not done it plenty of times yourself. And so I went ahead and put that in all the parts. And we did all the trim pieces here. So these are the front pieces and these are the rear pieces. One thing I forgot to do, and I'm just remembering right now, is print the inserts that go into these front pieces here to add a little pop of color. I did load the filament on the X1 carbon, but I forgot to hit print on it. So we'll probably need to slice some things here real quick, get that going, and maybe those will be done by the end of stream. So I'll push you guys over that way here in a second. We'll get through what this is for the umbilical frame. It's just, again, a mount that's gonna hold the tool head cabling, and then it'll hold a sort of a piano wire that adds stiffness to those, to both of those cables, so that they don't drag across the build plate or get caught up into things. We'll get through an in stop again, mount all these things to the frame. It's pretty straightforward. I've gone ahead and built these pad wipers. That was pretty uneventful, just folding a couple things in half and jamming them in there. And so we'll get those on the arms, and then we'll build these spool holders ×2. All the parts are prepped. I got them sitting over here on the side. And then we'll add those to the machine, and then we'll put the corners on. So pretty straightforward today, just some bracketry and that kind of stuff. But again, just getting us here, talking with each other, keeping things consistent. Happy Easter, Mrs. Lee Marie, Keela. You and Jeremy doing anything fantastic today? Hopefully he's taking you out for dinner or something. Yeah, so we'll do all of that, and we'll see how that goes. One thing I was a little worried about, it shows that there's a single piano wire on this, and there are 2 tool heads on the IDEX. So how does that work? I did print a second one of these for install because I thought initially that I needed both of them, but I want to say that it just talks about doing the single one. And once we run all that, it takes us over to electronics. If we get time to start on that stuff and sort of begin to build the electronics box, then that's what we'll do. I have all that prepped as well, but we'll see how we go. Okay? So that is the plan for today. Quick overview. All right, I think first we need to slice some parts. So I'll take you over to the slicer. We need to get some stuff going here. And that chat box is huge. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll delete that off of there. And then we'll add it back in a little bit later if we need to. Going to your uncle's for lunch and dinner. That sounds cool. That's like a whole buffet, lunch and dinner. That's really awesome. Sorry, we gotta move some things around here. That's a little better. You can actually see what's going on. And then we'll make it the actual size. There you go. You can see that much better. All right, and I know that I need some stuff. So on the X1 carbon, we're gonna use some generic ABS that I have loaded. And this is the same green that I'm used for all the other parts. So we'll just need to add in some of those. And I don't remember the name of them. So checking out the manual, they look like they're called, if we can get back down to it. Looks like they are called trim inserts. Trim diffuser, sorry, trim diffuser. Now, where did I put all those parts? Here we go, printed parts, trim diffuser. And I don't see that. All right, so let's search it. There it is. So we need 4 of these guys. 4 of those. Okay, good enough. I think I just print them with normal settings. So switch this over to this profile. These things should be good. This is the newest version of Orca Slicer that I downloaded this morning. The nightly build is what I like to use. You get to try out new features and whatever before release. So we'll do some of that. Should we iron? Probably. But also this is not transparent PETG or anything like that. RatRig says in the manual, and we'll get to see that when we get to some of the other parts, it talks about LED boards coming later. Whatever later means, I don't know. The machine has been out for over a year, or right at a year at this point, because this weekend actually was when we did Remurf last year. So right at a year, the announcement for the RatRig V-Core 4 came out. Those LED boards are still non-existent, not teased, not anything, not even pre-order. So I don't see the need to print parts in transparent filament if I can't do LEDs anyway. So we'll print them this way, they'll pop. And then if and when those boards come out, we'll reprint parts and redo stuff. This should be pretty easy to get done. So slicing this for the X1 Carbon says we're about 12.5 minutes. That's pretty easy to do. So machine's already warmed up. It should be good to go. So we'll just send that over. And we'll watch it from the background. There it goes. So one thing I need to do is rebuild the X1 Carbon. I'm considering maybe streaming that. And really it's kind of just a refresh for the thing. It's starting to have some issues with, some Z-banding. It's yelling at me about Y-axis input shaper not working very well. Good morning, Happy. Thanks for the panels. We got those behind me over here. But the machine's starting to yell at me about all of these things. And I think it's just time for a rebuild. The machine has over 5,000 hours on it, pretty close to 5,500 hours, and it's 3 years old. I haven't replaced any belts. I haven't replaced any pulleys or anything like that. I've just been doing the general maintenance, and it's not starting to look good. Some of the parts, I'll show you over here on the desk. Some of the parts, so if you remember, we printed these very bright colors here. Let's turn down some light. We printed these very bright pieces, and while they may look good, if I put it in certain angles, they don't, you could see some banding there. And I know that might be difficult to see due to the brightness of the filament, but they're not the best, although they work. So yeah, we'll do the maintenance on that and tear the machine apart. What I'm considering though is, do we stream it? That's what I'm thinking about. It's gonna be roughly a 4-hour deal just to be able to catch everything. We have to take all the panels off. We then have to, let's move this way so you guys can see better. Then we have to do belts, we have to do tool head. I got a new gantry for this thing. We're just gonna completely refresh it. So this is real quick, we're going off on a tangent. Somebody said might as well. Yeah, so this is an entire new gantry for the X1 Carbon. So we got one of those as well, just to make sure that the carbon rods aren't a factor in wearing out, which means we have to completely disassemble the tool head and put all the parts and boards and electronics into this one. Take all the belts off, which we need to do anyway. One thing I didn't realize is that the gantry itself comes with new belts. It comes with some grease to get things going. And then in here it comes with a bunch of extra screws and and things that you need to make it happen. Regardless, I got a bunch of extra stuff. So we got some new silicone socks, which are probably overkill. I got new tensioners to make sure that those are good to go. And then we have new pulleys as well to make sure those aren't bound up. I did notice that the pulleys I had were a little covered in what I think is just rubber from the belts. So over time, I think that's inducing vibrations in the axis, and that's causing some of the issues. So rather than disassemble all of that to clean them off, I'd rather just replace it, call it good. Bearings do wear after a while. I don't know if that's the case here, but it's just cheap insurance. I think those pulleys were, I don't know, only a couple of bucks. Good morning, 3D Wolf. Hey, Steve Builds, good morning. Thanks for being here. Happy Easter, everybody. Yeah, so that's where we're gonna get to. What's the cost to rebuild? Well, I'll tell you, just the gantry alone was $89 for the new gantry for the X1 Carbon. And then you got pulleys and some, what else? Some idlers, belts came in the kit. So roughly $100, $105. But I did get with it too a stack of filament. I think I got maybe another 6 kilos of PLA to print stuff with. So if you consider all of that separately, roughly $100 to rebuild it, and then whatever it costs you in grease to grease things. The thing we're not accounting for is time. The time to do it, I'm gonna roughly guess it's about 4 hours to do all of that, having taken the X1 Carbon apart a few times. The first time to replace the bed, the other times to grease some things, and then another time to install that chamber heater. It was a bit of a process to take all the panels off. There are a lot of hidden screws and things that you got to work around. Well, that's the goal, Happy, is to make her be new, or as new as possible. Yeah, definitely worth the labor. So we'll see how that goes. But while those trims are printing, we'll get started on the rest of the things. Coming up here, step 1, we got to do the heat insets, and we did all that. Your printer is now almost ready to eat eggs too, right on time for Easter. No, that's cool. Chat about the chamber heater later. Hey, yeah, I'm down to chat. I'll send you a link, Boothie, after stream. Just remind me on Discord. Just shoot me a DM. I'll send you the link for the one that I ordered. I've been running it for over a year, but I keep my machines in the garage, and so it gets rather cold out here. So cold that it's probably like 2 or 3 C in the chamber overnight in the winter time. So to get me through the winter, just to have prints not fail, I can heat that chamber, and I can get it up to a 65 C, the same as on the H2D over there. I think it's pronounced beanie. I'm sorry if I don't get it right. If you want to throw it in there, I will do my best to correct myself. Not chocolate eggs or literal eggs, plastic eggs. Yeah, so 3D Wolf, I printed a bunch of eggs for the kids for Easter, and my wife uses them to decorate the house. So she's a decorator, right? She decorates for all the holidays you would never think of. Valentine's Day, she decorates for Easter, she decorates for Memorial Day and 4th of July. I'm like, can we just eat food? So Biney, is that the correct one? The second one I said? I think that's the second one I said. But yeah, she's in there making Easter pancakes and stuff right now for the kids. We've already done step 2 and step 3. I put the inserts in there. We have done step 4, so insert is in that one as well, and step 5. And now we're up to step 6 here, which says propel. I can't speak this morning. Prepare the umbilical frame. So get all these parts out. We can do that. So what do we need? 30-30 M6 drop nuts. Ajax Faxon. Correct me if I said that incorrectly. Faxon. So that, and then we need some M6x12s, which I have right here. Happy Easter. All right, so we got those parts, and then it says I need a set screw, but I've already added that in there. So that's that screw there. It's a longer one. I'd say it's probably 5 or 10 mil. No, it's not 10. 5 to 6 long. And that's just to hold the wire, the piano wire that we're going to insert into this thing. Plastic pellets being eggs. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, everybody's saying Happy Easter. That's awesome. Thanks, team. Sorry, I'm over here shaking the whole setup. Sorry about that. V-Core will be awesome. 3.1. You have 3 years printing non-stop. It still rocks hard. Money, I have a 400 version of that. I just haven't built it because size is a factor. Once I slim down, maybe that'll be another build. But I really would like to make it a all-wheel drive quad XY, if that is the better term, a quad XY version of that. There are all those parts. There are all those parts. And then we still had the felt tip. These are like the wipers for the nozzles. I don't know if I prefer those or not, but it's there anyway. This is the part that I was wondering if I needed to make two, because it is an IDEX. The manual isn't clear yet, but I did print another one just in case. So we're ready for that. I just need to add a heat set if that's true. So I'm gonna turn the heater. All right, so those are in there. We just need to put these T-nuts on here. Wow, we're up to 9 folks on a holiday too. That's awesome. Hopefully you guys are spending time with your families after this. Yours is a 500. Wow. It's almost stock, but still very happy. I think a stock build of a RatRig is not a bad thing. It's a pretty stout machine by itself. I think if I end up building my V-Core 3, that I'll build it stock as well. Maybe I'll upgrade the nozzle to something, because I do like to print abrasives quite often. So I'll probably just put a tungsten nozzle in it, but the ultimate goal would be to keep that one as stock as possible, simply because it's going to be huge and massive, and I would just want it to be fast. I might update the motors to some Krakens or something. We do have those under the desk. Okay, so looking back at the manual here, it's just having us mount this to the frame. And so I'll move the printer around, and then we'll get going on that one. You'll still get to see all the wiring and the progress that we've made so far. But I just want to make sure we get a good shot on what is happening. This thing is starting to get pretty heavy though. It is not easy to move it around. Okay, so we'll get you over to the other side here. I'd say that's a pretty good shot. We'll zoom it in just a touch. Something like that. And this guy should go about right there. We got to put it the right way around though. Something like that. Yeah, I'm still curious if I need to make 1 or 2 of these. I wish that was a little more clear. So I got some dust on the tools when I used it as a reamer. I needed to enlarge the hole on these parts here, on this one here. And so I just jammed this down in there and spun it a few times, and that sort of worked as my reamer. Let's make sure that's center. So about right there. I still don't know how I'm gonna get 2 cables down through here, but it's an easy enough swap. So essentially, if this were a single tool head, right, you'd have cabling from here come up through the mount, and then it would loop over and come down through here using a piano wire as a guide. Machine is looking good. Thanks, Captain Kern. I'm actually really liking it as well. Spend time with family after. This is family. Yeah, I think we all try to support each other as much as possible. How about your other family? Because a lot of us have more than one family. You got your work family, you got your hobby family, you got your actual family. And some put up with more things than others. But yeah, that's a pretty simple install there. Next, we're gonna do the Y-in stop. Sometimes you prefer this family. Sometimes I do as well. All right, we're gonna do this in stop though. But no, my wife and kids are pretty cool. They actually enjoy me coming out here and doing this stuff because it means that I get to make stuff for them. And so they exploit the hell out of me for that. I don't know how many texts I got while I was gone, if I can make this for Easter or that for Easter. And I'm kind of like, well, I'm not home. I was in San Antonio all week. It's like, I'm not home, but like, I'll make you whatever you want when I get home. And so when I got home yesterday, it was like, Dad, you're back. Can you make me this thing? And I was like, I mean, I guess I'll make you whatever you want. But yeah, it was a couple of Easter things. I was like, well, Easter's gonna be over in like 36 hours. Almost have you set to build a RatRig instead of a 2.4. Hey, you can't go wrong with either one. Having owned, I have two by 2.4s over there, and they work just as advertised. I've not had a ton of issues with them. They are great for upgrade path. There's a ton of aftermarket support for all the things. And then no matter what tool head you want to run, no matter what direction you want to go with the build, there's probably something for you to do that. The RatRig community is much the same, although it's not as popularized and social media bound. I think Voron got a head start on that kind of stuff. And so they have a little bit of an advantage of being probably a little more well-known. But if you're looking for a machine that can just be as beefy as possible, I don't think you can go wrong with a RatRig. And then, I mean, the advantage too is you can go up to a 500 millimeter on a RatRig, whereas the Voron is kind of capped at 350 because they use 2020 for the build. You could expand it bigger than that. However, 2020 begins to not be as structurally stable at larger sizes from what I understand. And we got an end stop, and that just goes on the front like so. So it all depends on what you want, man. RatRig is kind of the better Voron from what you've seen. Sadly, don't have one yet. I don't know if it's better or worse. They're both printers. They're both Core XY. The advantage of the RatRig is it's a little more user-friendly in the sense that on the firmware side of it, they have their own operating system based on Clipper. So when you connect your machine for the first time, it sort of auto installs all the things you need, and and that's true as long as you wire it exactly how they recommend you do so. I think I might have picked the wrong screws. No, these got to be right, in 3x8s. Yeah, so as long as you're using the electronics they recommend and you wire it the way that they recommend and you use their parts and you use their guides to do it exactly the same, then the OS works. It's when you start getting more custom, you want to use a different controller or different hardware, different hot ends, you're going to have to customize Klipper a little more. So it depends on how comfortable you are with doing that. We are definitely going to run into that situation because we're using a Kraken, we're using tubes, we're using filament runout sensors, and hybrid and IDEX. So some of that is accounted for in the OS, and some of it is documented, but not all of it in the stuff that we're looking at right now on Chrome. So it may be a challenge. 3030 frame with the center connections is awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a beefier frame. But if 3030 is what you're looking for, Boothy Builds, who is in the chat, does have a mod where you can build a 300mm V2 out of 3030. You can find it on printables. It's called Vivo. It's a hypercube conversion. So you can kind of get the best of both worlds going with that build. And if you wanted to add those center connections, you can do that. You just need to get your extrusions drilled for it. All right, so the Y end stop goes at the front left of the machine, up against the, what is that, the idler stack. Okay, and it's an M6x12 that we already have installed. Cool. You're not going to be able to see this perfectly. I'll try to get you a better shot. But it's going to be this front idler up here. Let's see, if we move these out of the way, it should help you see where I'm going. It's going to be right up under here is where it mounts. By the time you get done with this Ender 3 Max, you'll be a pro at Klipper, probably. Doing Klipper setup on a smaller machine like that is always beneficial. You get to learn the process a little bit, and then that's kind of tight. There we go. You get to learn the process a little bit on something that doesn't matter so much, and then that's kind of the gateway to doing more complex things. So another add-on for this machine will be what they call a rat pack. That is RatRig's chamber filter, and we'll add that in. So that'll be an addition. Tommy Honkinen, problem with Voron is they make spaceship with garden tool. You make RatRig with Wera and Knipex. Yeah, you use the same tools for a Voron build though. It's not too different. It's sort of the same tools with a Voron build. The Klipper side is where it's different. There's not a lot of direction on what to do. However, if you did get an LDO kit, it would guide you through that. LDO does have, you know, uploadable profiles that you can drop in there, and they should get you, you know, 95% of the way there. With all the parts you will change, I think RatOS will be very helpful in configuration part. Biney, I think so too. It's going to get me most of the way there. I'll still have to change some stuff, like the heaters are going to change. So I'll have to update that. We will do, let's see, I'll have to add on the rat pack, add on the input, I'm sorry, the filament sensors. What else? I think that's about it. I'm trying to stay mostly-ish stock, but I do have preferences. Things like hot ends are preferred. So I did all this part for the felt pads. You just basically fold them in half. They have self-adhesive on the back, so they stick to themselves. And then you insert them just by friction into these mounts, which we've already done. And then you install them onto the arms, like so. I did have to make different parts because I'm using the Mandala Roseworks CNC'd arms, but it should not be too difficult. So we have modified parts. This is them here. You can see that this portion at the bottom is a little bit taller. That's to elevate it over top of the magnets that are in there. So the kinematics section elevates this. So it's basically just a block that we added to the bottom, and then it uses probably longer hardware to get through there. The manual recommends M3x8s. I have a feeling I'm gonna need M3x16s, but we'll figure it out here in a second. I need to move the printer around a little bit. So we just basically need to flip it 180. All of that would be very easy. Almost all already configured. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I'm not super worried about it. I'm comfortable with Clipper in the sense that I've done a lot of Clipper configs several times on different machines. I am a serial modder, and I'm out of breath now. I'm a serial modder, and modifying Clipper to work with the hardware that I want is not a huge deal. I've got a bit of practice doing that. This will be my second time ever using RatOS though. All right, I just need to find some hardware that will fit through here. I want to say they're going to be 16s. And in the kit, I've got a few 16s left over. Hopefully we don't need them for anything else. They just need to come out the bottom of the part. And 16s don't appear to be long enough. They are just about right. So 20s it is. Yeah, so you're gonna need M3x20s if you end up doing this. Those are not in the kit though. So you will need some extra hardware to do that. Let's see here. Those are 22s. That's a 20. And that's a 20. And we need 4 because we have 2 wipers. So as long as you have 4 of these M3x20s, you'll be okay. The ones I'm using are going to be stainless, so they're silver, which don't fully match the aesthetic that RatRig gives you, but they kind of match with the rest. So if I'm using, aluminum parts, stainless hardware doesn't clash too badly. And honestly, I'd rather have that than the other ones anyway. So that's the wrong side. Yeah, I'd rather have the stainless than the black oxide ones. Those tend to rust after a while, which is not great, but that's what came in the kit. So instead of replacing all the hardware and spending another $100 in hardware, I'd rather use what I have. So that's going to be interesting. That's too tall to fit there. But this one also clashes, kind of, maybe. So this should be on the other side. That's why the notch is there, to clear the... I'll show you on the other side here. So there's the other side of the kinematic mount. This sticks up quite a bit. And so that fits in there like that to clear it. But on the opposite side, the way that it is made, I think what I did is I just mirrored the part and printed too. But on the other side, it doesn't really work that way. So on this side, nothing protrudes above. So this is just one plane across here. Maybe the button head of the screw comes up a little bit. If we can get that to focus. But it doesn't really work with this part. The way that that is shaped, that bump out interferes with the arm. You can see how it touches there. So the alignment holes don't allow me to line it up. So realistically, we could file that down, hack it away, or we can do it in the slicer and print another part. Essentially what I would do is I would just do a plane cut on this upper face and just chop off that bump right there. And that would allow this to sit where it needs to sit. RatOS is really the best part of RatRig. Very easy to config, and everything is in their own folders and stuff. Terrifies. Yeah, there's a version of that called Clipane for Voron. It is very much the same. So as you're loading things up on your Raspberry Pi or whatever computer you're using, I'm trying to see, like, will that actually clear? Yeah, whatever system you're using, you can put Clipane on there and it does a lot of the same stuff. You put in your hardware, like what you're using and whatever, and it'll config it for you. And then if you do need to make modifications, you just add a line into your printer config or your override section, and it'll take all that into account. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the same problem on this side. So these parts, again, are not as described. So we ran into this doing, what the hell was it? Yeah, there were other parts that I don't remember right now that we ran into where the hardware or the recommended parts did not work as advertised. Oh, it was the gantry. Yeah, we were trying to put the lightweight gantry on, and the parts recommended on the checkout page did not match what was needed. So I'm wondering, because I could definitely move this down, and that would clear that. We don't have the bed installed, and so I'm thinking, like, does the bed sit up high enough that this arm would never come up this high anyway, so interfering doesn't matter? For the wiper part now, when you have the bed on and stuff, it is actually going to work. Or is it just now? The arms will or won't be more down. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Tommy. I'm thinking that the arms will be lower once the bed is on, and then you'll get some stick up above. So I'm just going to move these down. We'll install the parts. If things don't work out and we need to make new parts, not a big deal. It's plastic. We can make more. But I think for now, we'll just lower those arms down and install this way so that we can get moving. I'm thinking about like anti-seize and whatnot because it's an aluminum part with a steel screw. I don't know that anti-seize is a bad idea. I would hate to, come back a year from now and this part is just like welded in there because the screws have interacted with one another. Yep, so we're just gonna roll with that. I am a little upset though that on the other side over here, because I just mirrored it, and that's what the instructions told me to do, so it's not like I went off on a tangent. But it's got this lip here that's just completely unnecessary. I could have gone, straight down to meet with the bottom face, and it would have been fine. Whatever. It's an aesthetic issue. An aesthetic issue, not like a real problem. feel like those screws just don't want to go in there right. So the one did, and then this one is a little bit tight starting, and then it kind of smoothens itself out as it goes in. Smoothens, is that a word? Smooths? Making up our own lingo here on stream. Okay, so those go there, and on the back arm, there's a what they call a VAOC here. What is it? Ember Prototypes sells a VAOC, Visual Alignment Offset Calibration, I believe is what that stands for. RatRig has their own version of it, and we're gonna put that one on there. Because we're using these arms, it does have different parts, and we'll show what those look like once we get there. But we printed those parts as well. So those are on. On here though, it doesn't look like the arm sticks up very tall. Sweet, you want to learn? Well, hopefully I can teach you. We'll see. But it's got this dropout that clears the holder there. The dropout on these are not as significant because they are taller. So I'm really curious to see how that works out later. But for today, we'll do the spool holder arm ×2. I've got all these parts out on the desk. So we have, we can move this stuff here. We've got the two, so I've already put the PTFE in here. Once you put a spool on there, that'll level out. But right now, it's probably a little short. I was just trying to reuse some scraps that I had, but it should work just fine. If it does become a problem, we can cut some more PTFE. But these are scrap pieces from the box turtle build. So those are there. These are the extrusions we need. I've got the two printed parts here for end caps. It wanted me to do these in black. I like the pop of green. You do what you like best. And then a bunch of screws and hardware. And then finally we have these big beefy 30-30 brackets here to hold everything together. So Happy, you want to learn because you're building a tool changer or what? Because I know, or I think, the Ember Prototypes version is called a CXC. I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's basically the same thing. It's for nozzle alignment. And they claim that theirs is the better one on the market. I don't know. I have not compared and contrasted, but I do have one of each. So maybe in the future we can compare and contrast. But you can get one from him with your custom build plate. Yep, building a tool changer. Are you doing a stealth changer or is it something else? I saw what you posted on Discord about some custom build thing that you're doing. It looked almost like, it almost looked like a V-Minion, but with a bottom plate. Stealth changer. That's cool. I'm interested in that, but I have a different tool changer. I have a ProForge 4, and I have not built it yet, so I'd rather do that than to modify one of my Vorons into a stealth changer. And then I know we need some 12s, so these here. And then we need some hardware, so some 30s, and 6 T-nuts. And this goes down through here. You can get your fat fingers in there. That's where tools come into play. What are the two big chrome balls at the top of your work area? Oh, those are bed leveling balls. So what you do is you take one of these, you put it in the middle of your bed, and if it stays there, your bed's level. So if it stays in the middle of the bed's level, if it starts to roll away, then it's unlevel, and you just tighten the screws on that side to get it back to the middle. Or your bed is a complete bowl, and that's why it stays in the middle. An old Cetus Mark II from Kickstarter. I saw that, was curious in it, almost got one, but when I started watching reviews on it for the early adopters, it did not look good. So I didn't pull the trigger on that. Hopefully you like it. And Jack, you're saying thank you. I was totally joking, okay? Please do not level your bed with steel balls. What these are actually for, let me find something. This will work. What these are actually for your filament. So if you have an AMS2, you could take the steel ball and put it in there, and it adds weight. Because if you have a Bambu Lab printer, you know that once the spool gets light, I mean, there's enough on here to be fine. But once the spool gets lighter, roughly around the last, I don't know, 100 meters or so, it starts to jump and pull and tug in the AMS. And so it tends to jam itself. But putting this weight in there keeps it down in the AMS, and it doesn't jump or snag. So that's what these are for. These are just extra. They come in a 6-pack on Amazon. I want to say they're $28 or something like that. Well worth it. So you can do that, or you can do, I've got an example over here. If you want a free option, you can find different versions of this. So this is just a print that you can make out of any scrap you want. The color doesn't matter. And then you can fill it with desiccant. That's why this is vented. And so is the other side. So you can fill this with desiccant, or you can fill it with extra hardware. So this is a bunch of M8 hardware that I had laying around, and that adds some weight as well. So really kind of your choice on how you want to do that. And you screw this into a spool, and that adds a similar amount of weight, although this ball is significantly more heavy than this, probably by 200%. So this feels like maybe a pound, and this is maybe a half pound. So those are options that I use. And if you use a spool holder itself, you probably don't need that. It's really kind of only for an AMS or an AMS Lite. What's up, Jeremy? Good morning. Happy Easter. Keely said you guys were going to lunch and dinner with your uncle. So I'm excited to hear about that. We're finishing up sort of the accessory side of the build here. There's an entire step dedicated to what they call accessories. And so these are things like the corner brackets and the spool holders, which we're assembling right now. And now that we got Jeremy here, we have to say the magic words. Like and subscribe to stream. Helps out. Makes builds like this happen. In the sense that the motivation is absolutely important to getting me out here at 7 a.m. on a Sunday every week. If I were out here by myself, it may not be worth my time to stream this. So for the 9 of you still here watching for the last hour, thank you so much. I do really like this design with the PTFE on the top like that. I believe this started with RatRig and then was later adopted into spool holders of all types. And you see this a lot now on other machines as well. So I really like that when open source becomes a new standard on how we do things. That's right, everyone like and subscribe. If you don't know Jeremy, he's a huge cheerleader for the community and tries to promote and help out pretty much anybody that asks. Him and Keela are amazing ambassadors for this hobby. I hope to be like them when I grow up. Cool, 2 spool holders. Jeremy, you missed it. We were talking about the leveling balls. Oh, look at Captain Kern being a cheerleader now. I love it, man. Thank you so much. Just you guys being here helps out. You want to be like me when I go, oh, and wear one of these cool shirts. Look at this shirt. Look at this shirt. It's not a branded shirt. This is a Killer Prince shirt. Look at that. One of the coolest logos ever. Old school, baby. Playing with my balls. That's right. It's Sunday. You can do what you want on a Sunday. All right, so we just did that part there. And then I've already added the PTFE in here, so we could skip number 18. Number 19 has us do the lower bracket. And this will actually go on top of the bottom panel we installed a couple streams ago. So we're just making like a tower right now. And it's using the same hardware as before, the M6x12s. Make a print of that? Happy? I would love, listen, hey, if you want to make a print of this for me, I won't stop you. Let me know what you need and I'll do my best to help out. Thank you so much. We can link up on Discord and we'll see what we can work out. But I would love to have this. This is important to me. So thank you. All right, back on this guy, we've got the M6x12 here. Literally looking at some of this morning to buy. What earbuds? Oh, so sorry, these are not earbuds. These are called open shocks. They're bone conductive headphones. I am right now just listening to the same stream beats you guys are in the background. So that's what it is. And I'm going to be short one, I think. That's fine. Yeah, so these are just bone conductive headphones. I use them when I work out. I just got them in today. And that's because I thought, like, I can't really pay attention to my OBS as things are happening because I'm swapping between screens and I only have a single monitor. So I thought that I was going to be smart and use, for the alerts that come through, I thought that I was going to be able to hear those, but I don't. So there's that. But I don't know that I would unless someone subscribed. And the last subscriber I can see is 3D Medic Vince. So thanks to him or them. I don't know your affiliation there, but thanks to 3D Medic Vince for the sub. You got some of these for Kilo a while back. They're cool, man. I like them a lot. There's a new one out, a new version of them out. It's supposed to have a little bit better battery life, a little bit better range on Bluetooth. So very much the same, just newer tech in there. The ones I have, you could probably get at a discount because they're last year's model. So I don't know that the new one is worth bypassing the old one. You can get cheaper, but either way, it's probably the one thing that you didn't know you need and they will not drop off your ear. Yeah, that's why I wear them. I do a functional fitness style. So I'm running, jumping, climbing, pull-ups. I'm, on my face and then in the air, burpees, like all the things. And these headphones stay on my head. I've tried several different styles of headphones and they always fall out of my ears. They make my ears ache after a while. These I can wear all day and they're great. Not sponsored. Gotta be clear, not sponsored. I just really like it. Looking at a set you can put in Kilo's ear and one in mine for when you have streams with other people or have someone on the stream, keep the echo off. These are not noise canceling, so keep that in mind. You can use them for streaming though. So they're Bluetooth. You can use it as your mic and as your headphones if that's what you're into. I am only using it for headphones right now. I don't have it set up as a mic. When I was streaming with, man, what was it? Projects in Dad's Garage last week. I probably should have used these. I just didn't think about it. Move some of this out of the way so I get some room to work here. It keeps you aware of your surroundings a little more for sure. So I'm doing this one on the opposite side just because it tells you to have like a flat edge. And because I'm doing two, I just want them to be opposite. So one flat edge on the bottom of this, one flat edge on the bottom of this one, and so they're just mirrored. What model is it? I believe they are OpenShocks Pro. I don't know that there's a model number. It's just a name of a thing. So OpenShocks Pro. They are $200-ish, I want to say. Something like that. So they're not cheap, but they're also not like ear pods or anything. Come on. Yeah, for whatever reason, I was not getting this thing tightened like it should have been. It makes me wonder, did this one spin like it was supposed to? Looks like it. Hey, don't worry about hijacking the stream. We are building regardless. I can talk and build at the same time. So if there are questions, feel free to ask. I'm just noticing though, I'm looking at these two brackets. They are clearly different. So this one seems cast with like an anodized finish, I suppose. And then this one is a powder coated finish on a more premium. It feels more premium than this one. They are clearly different brackets. And they came out of the kits. So when these are bagged up, all the hardware and these parts are together. So they are the same. You just got some shocks. They're kind of hard to get used to. Yeah, I suppose. If you're not used to it hanging on your ear like that, yeah. I've never really liked things going down inside of my ears like that. Yeah, I'm looking at the other hardware they have that they sent over. It looks like they changed either the supplier or whatever in the past, because these are the powdered coated version, like this one here. This is the only one I have that is anodized or whatever it is, the cheaper one. I'm not going to redo it. I'll use what I got, but all the rest of these are the nicer powder coated versions. And I don't know if these are used for frame bracing later, but I want to say they are. Hey Kago, happy Easter. Thanks for being here. All right, so that's that. And then it has us putting them on the printer, I believe. You need to order some brackets like that for your stealth changer top hat. I agree, you do need these. They're fairly cheap. I've seen them on AliExpress. I've actually ordered some for my 3030 Vivo build. So the V2 that is thick framed, and they work like they should. You just gotta be aware that motors and idlers and stuff may hit them, but for a top hat, you shouldn't have any of that up there. Just make sure nothing on your stealth changer collides as it moves up and down. You can match it with rattle can. I don't think so. The coating on the nicer one, the powder coat, it's very thick. I'd have to lay on really thick coats of rattle can, and I'm just not that interested in it. It's just something I noticed because I'm a little OCD like that. Yeah, so we want to make sure the bracket is flush with the corner bracket. I want to say I did that. I did not. So on the nicer pair, I was able to get this flush with the edge here. This one did not, so I might have to swap it out regardless. And we'll use this on the back of the machine somewhere probably. Yeah, I didn't even notice that as we were or building. Only when I got finished and looked at it did it look different to me. But that's an easy fix. We'll do that, and then we'll put it right back on here. These are the little things that drive me nuts that I notice. And when I say I'm OCD, I'm not so bad that it's an uncontrollable need to fix the thing and make it match, but it is definitely noticed, and I'm definitely going to see it forever after that. My laziness sort of overrides that feeling, in the sense that depending on how much work it is, I may or may not swap it. So like you saw, I almost did not swap it there because I thought it would be fine, but it's not fine. It's not fine at all. Okay, so those are tightened in place flush with the bottom and with the side. That's what we want. Just double check this guy. So I made them both the same. I think it should be fine. No, it's not, because they're mirrored. They're mirrored. So this needs to be flush with the opposite side. So that way is the same. Flip that over. And I realize I'm just off camera here, but that's what I need to be able to have a flat surface. OpenRun Pro 2, that's what you have. I had a different, yeah, OpenRun Pro 2 is the new one. I have the original one. Mine is not the 2. Oh, and you know what? I did it wrong anyway. What am I thinking here? Needs to be flush on this opposite side. Come on, get your brain together. They get loud, but then vibrate with some static, super lightweight. They do tend to vibrate, but that's how they work, right? They're bone conductive. So they vibrate when they transmit sound through the jawbone into the ear. If you put them too loud, though, folks around you can hear sort of what you're listening to. So there's a bit of a speaker aspect to it, just not in the traditional sense. Okay, those should be good finally. You had a chicken hatch last night. That's cool. And it was done on Easter? That's a sign, man. It's a sign that you're gonna win all of the next filament giveaways. All right, so 6x12s to hold the, take care not to over tighten. Yeah, we'll try not to crack it. And then I take the screws out here, like so, and then just insert things here, like so. It doesn't appear that I put those washers back in there though. Remove the screws and their corresponding washers. But I never put those washers back in, so I guess I'll just hold on to those. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. All right, so if these go this way, logic tells me that I need to have them opposite of one another. And they go on the flat side. So if this is the flat side on the internal here, we'll use this one as a better example of the photo. So I need this flat side towards me, and that's the same side that the holder goes onto. And so I will do the same, but backwards on the other one. That way we have mirrored stuff, like in this photo here. Yeah, so they should be facing each other that way with the bracket towards the rear of the machine. Easy enough. So if that one goes that way, this should go on this side here like this. So that should go like that. Vibration at high volume is kind of funky feeling sometimes, but when you're focused on what, yeah, exactly. I keep mine rather low in volume as well. I don't listen to music and stuff very loud. I like to hear what is going on around me, especially when I'm out running or out in public. I want to be aware of what's going on around me and not just completely tuned out like some people. It's annoying to me when people do that and they're not paying attention. They're just, you know, in their own little world, don't care about anybody else. So I try not to be that guy. All right, so that's one that should go on the left-hand side of the machine. Move that out of the way. This is the other one. That is the flat side here, which means this goes on this way. That would be the rear over here, and then the front this way. So we should build it like such. Yeah, I need to be aware. Well, I run at night, or I say at night, but it's still dark in the morning when I'm outside sometimes. And cars don't see you. There could be dogs. I've gotten chased a few times. So knowing that that stuff is coming is how people survive. If not, natural selection becomes a thing. And we all know that natural selection is true. All right, so we're back to just putting these on. We're using the same hardware, not a big deal. It's a bunch of comments. Let's see what they say. No problem using 16s. Can confirm it works. You do not need to remove the screws at all. What? Nor do you need to reinstall the washers from step 22. I don't know. These comments sometimes are all over the place. When you used to work at Florida at night all the time, use headphones, but put one in and use the ones you could still hear from. You don't want to have... Yes, agree. SA is one of those things that you got to have. That's what separates us from those that are not alive anymore. Okay, let me move the camera down to where we're going to be working and see if I can get you a good shot. It's going to be sort of behind the lead screw there, right in here. It's going to be a little difficult to show you that, but we'll do the best that we can do. Try to move this back up. You can kind of see it there if I angle a little bit. But these two screws come out, and then we'll put the other ones on the other side. Try not to move those T-nuts around too much. Yeah, I really wish they would have put roll-in T-nuts on that one so they don't move. But we're already here now. It says we don't need these anymore. Okay, we'll not use them then. We'll put these back in the spares bag. Give me a crap ton of these. Crap ton of those washers with no real use for them yet. We'll see. Yeah, hardware goes in like so, and then they go down into the same holes it came out of. And that actually does tighten up. I was worried for them to not be long enough, but they seem to tighten up just fine. And I don't feel that panel moving, so I know that they grabbed the extrusion. I'll take you over the other side here. You can see that one a touch better if the camera will focus correctly. Here, let's give it something to look at. How about a tube ×2? So that's a little trick that I kind of learned by trial and error, is like when the camera won't focus, especially on something that's pure black like that, if you put a little something that is different on there, it'll tend to grab the focus a little easier. That's why this is still here too. These are leftover parts from when we were building Toolhead. But having you know, a sticker that with the backing on that you can just throw down somewhere, that helps. These will be a little easier to get to. I don't have to stretch through the entire machine to get to it. Morning, Clown Hammer. Thanks for joining us, bud. It's always good to see you. We're getting a little more progress on the RatRig this morning. We're gonna do another maybe hour-ish, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, getting through some of the accessory work, installing a couple of spool holders here. I still have to do some Y belts and some electronics. The cool part is electronics are next. So in section 12 is all electronics. I was looking at that this morning and yesterday. I'm excited for that because he built it all in sort of a box that you install at the rear of the machine. And then that box just mounts onto the back panel. So it should be super sturdy. Just want to make sure those aren't hanging over because the one on the far side feels like it is a little bit. Let's see if we can twist that inside. I don't want those panels to have a problem. It didn't tell me to do that in the instructions at all, but just common sense told me to make sure. Should have did that a minute ago before I tightened it down, but I like doing things twice. Gives you good practice. All right, so that's on there. And those are some beefy spool holders. I don't know that I've ever seen spool holders that beefy before. Steven Machado, good morning. Big advantage over the 3.1. It's all just hanging on the back. That's right. Yeah, the 3.1 was still, when it came out, it was still kind of using, I don't want to say old technology. That's not the correct term. The proper term is probably older methods. I'll say it that way. And so they just mounted things to the back panel. My second SK Cube is like that. They just have things mounted to a back panel, which is super easy for access and it's super easy for building, but it doesn't look as nice and it's unenclosed. So fingers can get back there. It can get dusty back there. You can drop filament on it. It's just not as clean as having something that's enclosed. But the cool thing is adding a cover like what we're gonna do on this build is pretty simple. It's just a few standoffs, a few printed parts, and a cover. All right, so we gotta get through these other parts here. So these are just beauty portions. They probably add some stiffness to the frame, which is great. But realistically, they are just to keep things nice and pretty. That's interesting. Wants me to add the hardware in there. And this is what I was talking about. These screws will be used to hold an LED PCB module coming soon. Coming soon has been over a year. So if these already exist as like a user mod or something, I would love to know that if we've got someone in the chat that knows. And I got to do this 4 times. So what are these, just M3x8s? We'll do that there and then put some brackets together. Okay. So the brackets are here. We got that one oddball. We'll put that guy in the back if possible. And then we'll put all 4 of these together. These are the rear ones. And they use M3x8s. Yeah, in some ways I like the 3.1 a little better, but in other ways I like the V-Core 4. The 4 with panels just being big squares, it's a little easier to get, but I feel like if you're going to get panels custom made for your build anyway, it shouldn't really matter what shape they are. I don't know that it costs more to do a non-square shape. I mean, if Happy's still in the chat, he can tell us, but I think if you cut a square or you have a triangle, it costs the same. So you pay for the material, I guess, and the time. But for the 3.1, it's really very similar. I think the tool head is different. although there's an upgrade to what they're calling the RatRig toolhead now, depending on the process. Yeah. I'm saying if it's a rectangle happy versus a square, it's kind of the same. I mean, it's just different holes. Just need a square. If you need a square, some vendors just saw cut. Yeah, I mean, I guess if your panel was 200 by 200, you could just order a square sheet. Got it. That's not the case for the panels on the V-Core 4, and it's also not the case on the V-Core 3. They're more rectangular. They do have some mounting holes in them, and so that all kind of adds up, I guess. I don't know. For me, they were roughly the same cost, and I have panels for a 400, and they cost me roughly the same as the panels for the 300. That's all I'm saying. So I'm trying to change the stream here. Most of us hobby guys use laser or CNC. Yeah. Because it's faster and cleaner, I think. Who would want to saw acrylic? You've taken a chance at cracking it or getting a rough edge. Okay, so some 12s through the bracketry here. Those are our rear beauty covers. And then these, we'll use that weird bracket in the back. Trying to figure out the best way to put my fingers in there to hold those screws from falling out. That's what I hate the most about these T-nuts. I'd rather have the roll-in style. Had I thought ahead, I would have just ordered my own and put them in the frame instead of these, but we're here. I didn't want to spend any more on the build that was unnecessary. We've already got top tier parts, so trying to, I don't want to say cut costs, like cheap out, but you know, things that are a little more unnecessary based on preference versus being absolutely necessary. Those are too long. Those are 16s. I mean, 2 tubes, come on. 2 tubes with heaters and thermistors, PT1000s. Dude, that's like more than some printers altogether. Hammer nuts are the devil. Vicky Valancourt is the devil. Every time I hear somebody say that, that's what I think of. I think of the water boy. Foosball is the devil. Now these are just tedious because you have to build so many. This was true when you're doing the V-Core 3 as well. It's a lot of prep time putting in T-nuts in hardware on CNC plates, and they have you do all of them at the same time, and then you start putting things together. So it's a lot of prep time and going into it. Spring clamps in cars are the devil. Oh, you're talking like hose clamps? I hate those. But they make a tool for that. They make hose clamp pliers now. I don't have one. I need one. From what I've seen on the internet, they work well. Yeah, still a pain. You're right. I don't know that there is a tool for this though, that you could make this job easier. It's just one of those things. You guys remember before we had the roll-in ball nuts or roll-in T-nuts? Like this is all that we had forever and ever were these. And we built plenty of decent machines that way. This is that weird bracket. You can see how much hardware we have left. There's probably another 100 M6 bolts and 100 T-nuts. I don't know why there's so many. I'm hoping that that's not how panels are connected. I'd rather just use clamps. And so thinking about it, if it's true that the panels are held on with T-nuts and bolts like this, I'm probably just going to use like Voron style panel clamps, but in 30-30 flavor. So if we need to remix something to do that, then I will. But I'm not a fan of using hardware like that to hold panels on. Dizzy did the mod? What mod is that? You talking about the panel mod? Oh, I'm taking more screws out to add more stuff. So next over here, it's got us taking out screws here in the corner. Look up. Okay, sorry. Printables, V-Core 4 corner, RGB LED mod. Okay. Steven, if I add you as a mod, could you drop the link in chat for everybody to help? Yeah, there you go. So we just made you a mod. If you could drop that link in there for posterity, that would help out everybody, I think. I usually record the chat on the live stream. So if people need to go back and do that, they're able to check it out. Perfect. Thank you, sir. There is that. And I'll just open it over here. And we'll save that for later. I'll come back to it after stream. Thank you. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at it and see if I can see if we can manage. Let's go back to, sorry. We got so many windows on one monitor. Okay, let's take a look at this guy here. Okay. You've been thinking about having metal panels made for the 3.1 acts as the structure. That would be cool. You'd add a lot of mass, so you'd get a little more. Your input shaper should hopefully, if everything else is right, improve a little bit. Probably get a better. It would definitely be heavy, more mass, but I think you'd get like better chamber temps as well with metal versus plastic. Okay, I think I want to say I've seen this before, Steven. What I did not know and did not see, so like if I come into files, I'm seeing the parts to accept it, so I'd have to print all the new parts, which is fine. What I did not see is the instructions on how to make the PCB. And if I click that, that's the RatRig link. So where do I get the PCB from? So it talks about creating the PCB. And if you're interested, you can leave a message. Okay. I mean, is that how we do it? So, because what I'm seeing, I've looked at this before. So, hi, are you making it? Can I get 4? And then there's no response. And then this guy was like, hey, can I get this? And there's no response. And then somebody else said, pretty disappointed they weren't included with the printer. I agree. And then somebody else is looking for the stuff and there's no response. So It would be nice. I'm pretty sure I've looked at this because I already have it pinned. There's no, again, there's no details on the PCB itself. But I have not looked at the CAD, I'll be honest, and I don't know that he included it either. Yeah, there's no CAD, it's just the STLs. So, kind of stuck. We're back right where we were. But that's a great idea. That's what it should be. I'm sure that an entrepreneuring person could make these and make some bucks on the side if there's somebody out there that is good with designing PCBs. I am not, but I've definitely looked at those before. Okay, back to the build. It's having us remove these front things here. We're gonna put the brackets on like so, and then some more up top. So we get them at the top and the bottom like that. So one up top, one at the bottom, in each corner in the front. Sure. Are we not doing any in the back? Oh, I guess there's a cross beam in the back, so that kind of stiffens things up. Where do we want to put the ugly one so it's not seen? We'll do, I guess, bottom left corner. Cool. So we will pause right here and put all these brackets in. Oh, I just put extra hardware in there too. I guess I don't need to. Because when we pull out this hardware here, I don't need it for this bracket, but it had me build them all with 4. So on 2 of them, I got to take the hardware out. Things like that are the slightly annoying details that get missed. So this on 2 of these brackets should not be here because you're going to reuse the hardware. But they have you build 4 of them. So whatever. It's just I'm a little bit of a detail-oriented person, and things like that get annoying. They add up over time. So I'll take this out. But then you're like, just buy V-Core 4 and have PC or acrylic panels because it had those new blind joints anyway. Yeah, I think that was the real reason that RatRig decided to do a V-Core 4, is that the hardware to square the frame was kind of challenging, the way that they had it set up. The way that they had it set up before was pretty difficult. And they probably got a crap ton of complaints about how to square up the frame and where the extrusion's bent, etc., etc. And so by doing a frame this way and using CNC cutters to cut your extrusions to length, it sort of gets around any stuff like that. It makes it much easier. I mean, you saw when we built the frame, if you caught the first stream, it took us 4 hours, I think. And of course, we're streaming at the same time, right? And look, they had me do one. There's not even a hole for it. There's not even a hole for that there. So why did I put this one in there? That seems silly. Anyway. But yeah, it took us about 4 hours to build the frame on this version, the V-Core 4. I could imagine that it'd be more than that for the V-Core 3, probably 6 hours, because it uses the blind joint method, from what I remember. And I'm going to do this bottom one first because that has a hole that we can't adjust. I mean, that's drilled through the bottom plate, so whatever you get is what you get. I could just get this to thread through. There it goes. So I'm gonna make that a little bit snug to get that T-nut to spin, and then we'll go to the side and pull this into the extrusion pretty tight. And I wanna make sure it doesn't come past the edge there, so we're just squaring that up with the edge of the frame. We'll tighten that guy down. That should pull it into place. And then I'll get this other one here. And then we'll do the top one. Just looking down inside the frame to make sure the T-nut spins. Because believe it or not, it will get tight without spinning. I've done that a couple of times. All right, so we do that, and then we'll flip over to the other one here in the front. That guy there, and do the same thing. I have to use my 5mm for this. It's not small hardware by any means. I think on these brackets, you could probably get away with using your washer if you wanted to. I am not using it, but you could. I can get this assembled right. So, goes through the rear hole. This front one is not used. There's not a hole in the panel. I feel like there should be. There probably should be a secondary hole here in the panel. But you could certainly drill it if you're worried about it. And maybe I will one day. We'll come back and mark the hole, drill it, we'll put a T-nut in there. But even doing that entire process, you have to take the entire panel off to both drill the hole and insert that T-nut, because otherwise it's covered with this and you'll never get your hands in there to put a T-nut in. So we'll make sure that's aligned with the extrusion, not going to pull itself past the front edge. Just trying to get it square. And we'll tighten down this one here. We'll come in from the top. Yeah, there should be no issues with this frame being rigid. Like, it's the way it was assembled from the start. Now we're adding bracketry to it as well. I would have kind of liked to have more brackets like this at the rear and at the rear top. That would have been cool. Financially ruined, so you can't do other projects as project. You'll have to explain that one to me. I'm trying to pick up what you're laying down. I just feel like if you're gonna add the holes, why not make it useful? You had me put hardware into every bracket hole, and then we're not using two of the hardwares in one of the holes. It's just a little bit silly. All right, so do that up. I'm just doing this lightly to hold things in place. Then we'll come back and we'll tighten it here in a second. Because you really want to get it up in the corner. And I don't know if you caught it on camera, but that did adjust when I started to snug down that top bolt there. So that's on there. It's not sticking out past the frame. So once we add on a panel, the panel should sit flush there. When you have absolutely no other projects and can't buy any more builds, you say, oh wait, I can take my V-Core apart. Yes, yes. That's what I kind of like about the V-Core, is that there are mods, and if you wanted to do mods, you could, but it's not a mod culture as much as some other printer ecosystems. And so with this one, once you build it, it's kind of what you got. But again, you can do little updates and mods, and RatRig has made it easy to do that. But really, the stuff that you get with it already is pretty good. And so there's not a whole lot of need to update. Now, I'll be honest, I am looking for a heated chamber because, like I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, it does get pretty cold out here in the desert, especially in the wintertime. I mean, today the high is only 80, and overnight we're down in the low 50s. And so in the garage, I will see my chamber temps, you know, when the machine is off, the chamber temperature will be like 20 C, which is too cold-ish for ABS. So you, instead of heat soaking for, you know, 20 minutes before I start a print, I would love to just have a heated chamber and just accelerate that heat soak time, or at least decrease the amount that I need to heat soak by having a heated chamber. And so I'm thinking about that for this build, just adding a PTC heater in here to help with that. And I wouldn't need it all the time. In the summer, it gets pretty hot out here. I can't even be out here very long in the afternoon. Once it hits about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, it gets really stinking hot in this garage. It'll be up over 90 in the garage alone. Okay, that's that. They want us to do some bracketry here. We have one part going in through the rear. And then we put the trim on. That should be done over there on the printer by now. Let's check on that. Did it finish? Looks like it finished. Yep, so there are our parts. I just need to pull those off. That goes in, diffuser goes on, front cap, and then we use M3x16s to hold everything together. Just 2 of them. And then we get something that looks like that. Easy peasy. All right, let me grab those parts. Came out pretty good. This is what we got. Pretty simple. Pretty simple green parts. Let's put the plate back on, trying to keep things together here. Come on. So I got my my X1 carbon up pretty high on a shelf. After I moved things around, I had to make room for the build we're working on. So when we do get finished, it has a place to go. That's something else I need to do this week, is to clear out more space in here for all these projects. And probably get rid of a machine or two. If anyone is in the Lancaster, California area and you need a 3D printer or want a 3D printer, hit me up. But yeah, so that's that. So the way this works, this is a rear portion. You could tell because the 2 screws are in the internal part, and then the front facing has the holes, but also the hardware is on the outside. So once we kind of make a sandwich with this stuff, it goes together like that, sandwiching in the this piece inside of it. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'll just prep by putting these small pieces in here, and hopefully later RatRig will make some stuff. So that's unfortunate. You see how that worked out? Like that piece just kind of fell out of the part. It doesn't snap in or hold in. I guess I could glue it. I do have some ABS gloop, but then I'd have to completely reprint the parts instead of just making transparent parts later. And I'm wondering if I actually care. I might just leave it the way it is. What percentage of RatRig and borons have been printed on bamboos? None of yours were. My V-Core 3, I had printed out all of the parts in prep to build the thing, and I never did. So I still have those parts, and when I printed them, they were printed on a Voron because I did not have a bamboo at the time. My bamboo has just been reliable. And if I need to print something that's not so large, like something like this, it's one of the smaller machines that I have. I don't want to fire up the Voron 350 just to print out 4 of these super thin 12-minute parts. So if I had my V0 working, this would have been a perfect job for a V0. I think I'm just going to add a little bit of 3D gloop. I don't plan to redo any of the lighting inside of this anytime soon because there are no PCBs. And if I need to, I will just reprint parts and pull the heat sets out and redo it. But yeah, Jack, I think once the X1 Carbon and the P1S and stuff like that came out, building other printers, custom printers like what we're doing here, probably became a lot easier. Just gonna add a little bit to the back side of that, and that should hold it in. I just kind of did that corner there. And that should hold in once that dries pretty quickly, usually like 20 seconds or so. We'll keep it from falling out of place. So I'll just do that a couple more times. And once I pressed on it, there was enough friction, but I'm worried that moving it around will cause it to fall out, and then I have to disassemble the whole thing just to make it go back in. And I would not be happy about that. I'd rather just do the thing once and have it be done. But have you guys seen the new, it's called a Wondermaker Z1 Ultra? That thing's been a little bit on my brain recently. It is a more affordable, ready-to-go tool changer. You can get it plain with just a single tool head, and it would not be a tool changer, and there's supposed to be an avenue to update it with additional tools later. Or you can get it as a 5 tool head straight out of the gate. I want to say it's like 800 bucks. Problem is, it's a Kickstarter printer from a unknown or unproven company. And while I've been successful with that setup before, I'm not really exactly sure that I need or want a tool changer. And I say that knowing full well I have one that I need to build. But with the H2D and the X1 Carbon working just fine, multicolor, I see less and less a need to have a tool changer. And if I am wrong or there are hurt feelings in the chat, tell me about it. Kickstarter. Yeah, but here's the thing. So if you are a little bit of a gambler, Kickstarter is not a bad thing. If you're okay checking out, let's see. If you are okay, let's get rid of all that. Let's see, why is this not working for us? There we go. So this is it, 5 tool head changer. You can get it in a single tool head version like this. What I find interesting is that the single tool head has a poop chute on it, but no panels. And it still has this 4-color deal. And I want to say that's like $6.99 or $6.50, something like that. This tool changer version is very similar, except you have different tools versus the one. So that is kind of cool. And then they have, so the tool changer one's called the Ultra. The regular one is the ZR. And it tells you the standard stuff, whatever. But it is a Kickstarter. So if you go to the Kickstarter page, this is what it looks like. And it looks kind of cool. If you talk about price though, so this one, which you clearly probably know what that one is, 3,500 bucks. This one is $699. They're touting things like a bigger screen and you know, an extra 10C. Not super great. Don't necessarily care about that. But it is larger. It's a 300. Instead of, well, that looks like a Flash Forge something that's not released yet. Like a, what do they call it? The 4, Flash Forge 4. I don't remember exactly. But it's smaller and you get a similar capability. It looks cool if it works. What I don't know is like what software they're using. That's usually the killer for me, is the software is not IDEX 5. Thank you, Captain Kern. What kills me most of the time is the software side of things. If it doesn't perform like it's supposed to on the software side, then you're gonna have a hard time no matter how good the hardware is. And so looking at this, it looks really good. It comes with the camera and the aux fan, great. You get a relatively decent build volume. That's gonna print most anything that you would normally print, but it's unenclosed. And so this is great for trinkets and things that you wanna look at that look pretty nice. And if that's your jam, love it for you. I do a lot of ABS and things like that, and it would be great to have tool changer capability in an enclosed system. It looks pretty simple to where, at the very least, you could glue panels to the sides, but what do you do about the top? And that's just really not answered for me in this campaign. And so I can't really, for me, justify this. But it does look cool. I'm glad that more tool changer type things are coming out. Yeah, so you can get it for at least $699. If you want the warranty, $749 or $799. I think that's a pretty decent deal. You get 2 of them for less than $900. That's pretty good. There's the enclosure. So for $100, they give you a top hat and a door. I don't know. This is, and then to me, before tariffs, $120 shipping. We'll see what it ends up being. But yeah, assuming you get what you paid for, it's not a huge thing. And they're targeting August shipping from the factory, so maybe another 30 to 45 days after that, so probably September, October timeframe. It's kind of cool. Anyway, looking at M3x16s, that's enough dreaming. There we go, we get some 16s right here. All right, so like we talked about, these should be sort of dry. I'm gonna do the rear. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the hardware in first. And I did not even, so one thing that RatRig does with their parts is what is it called? They do the bridging over the holes, and they have you kind of like use a tool like an Allen key to poke through there to clear that hole out. I did not do that on any of these parts. So make sure you do that or your hardware is not going to work. So come on. Okay, so those go through, and then you put this up here. Oh, that's pretty cool. It has actually cutouts for the heads of the screws in there. I'm glad they thought forward on that. And then you just take this top part and put that on there. And it's sort of just to make that look a little more finished versus a raw bracket. So I think if you really didn't want to, you didn't have to print these and put these on here. These are completely optional. I noticed on that rear part though, there's an extra hole for sort of putting another screw through there. I don't know what for though. Yeah, we gotta push that together. There we go. I was wondering why the screws weren't catching. It's because they weren't pushed all the way in. There it goes. Now it is working. So we'll just tighten that to snug. There's no need to have it super tight. Again, it's just a beauty panel. It's there to look good. And we'll go over to the other sides here. Get those out of the way. Rear part, top part. Again, we'll make sure we clear out the holes because I almost forgot again. Not used to that. It does make printing very much easier, because you don't have to have any support material inside those pockets when you're using socket head cap screws like we are. And so it's very nice to keep down on that. But I feel like at this point we know, not sacrificial bridging, but the other bridging that creates the square and then they print the hole on top of it. We know that that's a thing and that works pretty well. So I feel like sacrificial bridging in the way that they're doing it on these parts is a little bit outdated. So we'll just push that one in there. And now those should be able to grab. There you go. And we'll just make those snug till they just stop turning, just making it finger tight there. Don't want to pull out heat sets and you don't want to crack parts, because then you got to reprint them and that sucks. It takes you a lot of time. Taifu fan not working because mini connector pulled out due to stress on silly short cable. I'm sorry, Boothie. I'm sorry. I led you astray. So what Boothie's talking about in the chat is the Devil Design 5015 fans released a couple of weeks ago. I placed an order for a pair of them. I've got them actually down here. I don't know what I'm going to use them on just yet, but I have them, and this is what we're talking about. We got a pair, we got some of these. Some have the tachometer on them, some do not, but they're pretty nice fans. And his opinion is that these lengths are really short, and I suppose they could be. You do have this very tiny connection right here. I'm not exactly sure why that's on there, but it is. And if that's a problem for you, you could strip and solder a longer cable, but I think these are made for tool head boards. And so something like that would be pretty decent. His opinion, like if you try to run this through a cable sleeve or clean up the wiring, you got this bulky connector here. And so if I were going to do that, I'd recommend that you just strip this and solder on a longer length of wire to get that through to where you want it to be if you're not using a tool head board. But it looks like the stress pulled it out, and these connections are really small, so trying to crimp a new one is going to be a pain. I would just solder these, honestly. Not sponsored by these guys. I have no idea what their choices of design was for to do this. But I picked up a set because they have the CFM is 6.8 to 8.3. and they use 43 to 64 millimeters of water for pressure, and they're 10,000 RPM fans. So would be good, I think, for maybe a stealth burner build. Or if you're doing a V-Core 3, I think that still uses a 50-15. But I picked up 2 of the 2-wire and 2 of the 4-wire versions, just to have options. But yeah, Boothy's doing a really cool side project. I won't talk about it. I'll let him do that if he wants to, but we're going back and forth about part selection, and he was having trouble with some cooling. So I was like, hey, these just released. You should take a look at these. Sort of, I guess, recommending those. And now I feel bad because they're not working out. But I think that's the thing with this hobby, is like you try a thing and you don't really know that it works until either you're a late adopter and you wait for everybody else to kind of figure it out for you, or you jump on board early and try it out for yourself. I'm more of the early adopter person. I like to try stuff out when it's released and figure it out for myself. But I know Boothie is a little more conservative in the fact that he'd rather have proven technology to not make his life more difficult. Either way, looking forward to that project, if and when it becomes a reality. All right, last one here. Let's put these screws all the way in. And then after you punch through, you got to make sure that you clear out some of the material, or your screw may not go all the way in there, or you'll have a little bit of trouble trying to get it through. Yeah, this is the hole I was talking about too. So there's a small hole. So let's get you back in frame here, and then to the machine. So there's that small hole right there, and it looks like it would be for an LED wire or something, but there's no LED. Almost lost some hardware. There's no LED, but you know, it is planned at least on the parts. We'll see if it happens. Should ask the team about it at Remurf. And if I remember right, when I saw their demo machine they had at Remurf last year, they did have some LEDs in these corners. I feel like I remember that. But you would need, generally you would use an octopus for this. I think that's the base configuration, is to use an octopus. I don't know that they have a ton of RGB ports to be able to do the LED, so I don't know how you would do that, because if I'm thinking about it, you got to run 4 separate LEDs here, and then you got to get that down under the frame. So the ones up top would have to come down here and behind and under and in, and then go to the back of the machine, because everything's mounted on the rear. It just seems like a wire management nightmare. So maybe LEDs are not the best idea. Whatever. Teach his own. Okay. Hard part done. I'm getting towards the end here, folks. We're on step 31, and we've done all 4 of these. Next is the upper PTFE guides, and I think once we get through these, we'll be done with this section of the build and for today's stream. All right, so upper PTFE guides. I made some different ones, so mine look a little bit different. We'll go over those real quick. Yeah, so like that. Okay, so these are my parts. They have stamped in there what tool they go to, and then instead of just the one coupler, there's a spot up top for another. That way, instead of having one continuous tube from the top up here where filament just kind of, I don't know, the PTFE would just sit there and kind of pull through, it's actually held in with another coupler. I just need to find my spares and I'll put those in after the fact. But they just kind of screw into the top there. They're threaded and threaded at the bottom. Hey 3D Wolf, welcome back. Almost done, buddy. We're wrapping up a little bit here. We got about 10 more steps to get through. What we're doing right now is the hardware side of things to get the PTFE tubes squared away. And we're already at the just over the 2-hour mark too. And that was the goal for today, was to do about 2 hours. Maybe we make it to about 2.5. We'll see. But I want to give you time to get back with your families after spending time with me this morning. Okay, so we got 1 and 2 like so. And then going through the manual, we're just mounting these towards the motors and running the PTFE tubes through. We'll do that later. But it's having us mount these. Let me make sure your view, you can see what I'm doing. So it's got us mounting these towards the rear motors. Get you a good shot. So T0 is on the left. Is it on the left? I don't really remember. I think it's on the left. We'll do that, and if we need to move it, we'll move it. It's easy. And then this one will go over here behind these. So T1 will go there. I think that's right. My brain's kind of exhausted. Hey Bearded Printer, thanks for being here, buddy. We're wrapping up some of the accessory stuff on the machine today. So we have spool holders, and we're doing PTFE guides right now. We'll save electronics and wiring for maybe sometime this week. I'm considering doing a second stream this week because I am off of work and just taking advantage of the time. But I do know that I want to spend a lot of that time getting a better setup in the garage here so that we can have a better experience overall, get a little more organized, things like that. So we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm gonna wait for these tubes. We'll put those in later. I still need to find those other couplers. I know I have them, I just don't wanna dig through a bunch of stuff. Next up, we have these lower guides. And we'll assemble those like we have with everything else, M612s and a T-nut. And then we put 2 on either side to guide the tube down to where the spool holder lives. That's what I really like about this system, is it guides the filament the whole way. I did see a mod where folks will add on, I'll just zoom in on this, they'll add like a belay or like a turtleneck into here so that you get some sort of like filament feeding. So you'd have a trigger here that'll tell the system the filament is kind of running out. Not running out, but getting absorbed into the print. And then you'll have another motor down low that drives more filament in to keep it fed throughout the process. I've considered adding that to this setup. There is a place on the spool holder around this area that you could mount a secondary extruder to push filament to the tool head. And the reason I'm thinking of that is this is a long filament path. So from where the filament is wound, up the back extrusion, up around the top, curving over into the tool head. So you could see some resistance in there, even if you're using, you know, 3mm inner diameter tubing from start to finish, you could get some binding in there. So I'm considering that. I want to see how things work from stock. And if we need some assistance, we can add something sort of like a turtleneck or a belay and a small extruder motor to do that. We'll see. All right, so if I'm assembling IDEX, go back to step 32 and complete an additional filament path assembly on the opposite side of the machine. Yes, I've already done that. Great. Why not put the filament at the top of the frame versus this super long path? These are people just complaining. Nice to have a printed part to attach the tube to the spool holder. Yeah, but I'm sure you could just find one. And then we'll add some piano wire. Okay. So let's do that. Let's make a couple of these things. All right, we'll get the parts out of the box over here. I think I printed more than just 4. I think maybe I thought that I needed more, but I'm not seeing them, so maybe I did not. Good. So we just printed 4. We actually followed the instructions this time. And these are kind of cool. So they're printed standing up like this. So they print this way. And they're flexible enough to have enough room to create space for the filament tube. And so once that goes in there and you tighten this down, it should grab onto that filament tube to keep it from moving. And if I look down in there, I don't know if this is my machine because it's wavy and it's the bamboo, I can feel ridges down the side. It looks like there's ridges inside that hole too, which may not be a bad thing because that could grab onto the filament PTFE a little bit easier, that Bowden tube. So this goes through here. I'm not going to tighten this down all the way because we still need to run that PTFE through it. We need a few more of these T-nuts. That just kind of goes on there like so. We'll do that 4 times. I swear if I have to take out hardware just to install this, I'm still like, I hate that this is all the black oxide coating stuff because my fingers are just getting dirty as F, and then I could see it all over the pad too. I really wish this was stainless hardware. I think that would have been a nice touch, but if I can make any recommendation, that would be it. It's probably really the only downside to the build, if you really want to call it a downside, is that the hardware is not as premium as the kit is priced. First world problems. Okay. Let's put these washers back in the bag. Those are from the spool holders we added earlier. Don't need that right now. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is move this down. Should be able to see the rear extrusions here and here. That's where those filament guides are going to go. So we'll just add one most of the way up and then another one most of the way down and see how it goes. So like so. And of course these are adjustable. We're just going to put them on here loosely. No need to tighten them down just yet. Just enough to hold them in place so as we move the printer around, nothing falls off or gets turned around. You notice I haven't cut any belts yet. So we'll do all of that and get things going at a different time. I won't leave you guys out. So that goes on there. Let's see if I can get low and see. Oh, that's something to note too. Like this printer is much wider across here than it is deep this way. I found that to be interesting. I thought it would be pretty much square. It's definitely not. definitely not. And that's probably due to the IDEX portion of it. But if you were building a non-IDEX machine, you'd run into the same thing. Okay, so we just did that. We installed those. It wants us to put them more near the bottom. Okay, I'll just move that down. They're not super tight. But I feel like you need some sort of radius at the bottom anyway, up against that panel. So we'll move those as needed later on. Just want that smooth radius as it comes out the bottom over to the filament. And then, yeah, you do one on the other side. Cool. I love how they believe this filament tube is going to bend this way. We all know that's not reality. That's going to be just like a smooth transition from one side to the other. But interesting to note nonetheless. It does have us prepare the piano wire and the set screw. And we need to cut it to 650 millimeters. Again, I think I'll do that when I do the tube to the tool head. So this portion here, as I'm running this across, I'll go ahead and cut the wire to the length that we need as well. And again, it fits into this back piece that we saw, and you secure it with the set screw down below. You could also add zip ties around here, which you're probably going to do anyway for the wiring section, and that should also hold it on. Plus it's going to be attached to the wiring, so that'll hold it where it needs to be. Yeah, like this right here. I know this wire is a little stiff, by design. That's why we use it. I am wondering if it'll stick out above the top of the printer though. So they recommend 650, and we'll start with that, but we may have to trim it a little shorter so it doesn't rub on the top panel. But once we get it installed, it should look something like that. What do these folks have to say? Umbilical height is going to be, okay, so they're thinking the same way I am. With the top enclosure panel, gut tells you yes. Order, man, additional extruders to build a riser, okay. I feel like I would just print a riser. Install crossbars with lights, that's a good idea. You can get them from over here, anodize the match, along with all the joining solutions you can imagine. Sure, I'll consider that. Really pleased with the quality. Piano wires, cut them to 650 for that. Notice when the y-axis is moved all the way to the rear, the loop extends quite a bit above the frame. Yes, that's what I was talking about exactly. So maybe cut a bit shorter or consider a top hat. Pretty hard to get both wires in. We were talking about this earlier too, but managed with pliers. The bottom of the channel is only a layer or two, so shoved until both wires poked out, and then shove them back into the part slightly. Then tighten the set screw. Far easier to do with the mount removed. That's a good tip. Do I need to install two for an IDEX? How deep is the hole in the tool board mount for the piano wire? Mine didn't seem to go in more than 6 millimeters. Okay. And then we're on to electronics. Well, boys and girls, next step is electronics, and we said we were gonna stop streaming about the 2-hour mark. So I think for us, that's where we end for this particular stream. And so to thank everybody for being here on Easter Sunday, giving you a full hour back, or I guess 48 minutes back, for you all to go and spend time doing whatever it is you do on Easter Sunday. So again, from me to you and your families, take care of each other. Do whatever is in your practice to do for today to spend time with each other. That's really important. So I appreciate you guys spending a little bit of that time with me. To hold myself accountable, I'm gonna list out the things that we're gonna do on next stream. We're gonna build that electronics enclosure. So we'll get through step 12, whatever that is. And so from memory, it is building the enclosure case, sort of, and then putting all the electronics in there. There's wiring in there as well, and then attaching it to the printer is kind of the last step. All the tool head stuff comes in a later step. So we'll have to do a secondary stream to get to the toolhead wiring portion. I'm really thinking this is going to end up being like 9 or 10, maybe 11 parts. I'm considering a stream later this week, possibly Wednesday or Thursday timeframe, depending on what me and the spouse does. This weekend is our anniversary. We'll be at 13 years married and 17 years together. So we may end up doing something on one of those days during the week. I'll put it out there and let you guys know. So thanks for being here. Appreciate everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on the next stream, guys.